Hello, listening audience. It's been a while, hasn't it? I am your host for the day, Whirlwind Gale, otherwise known as Gale, or just Whirlwind, depending on how you feel that day. And I am here to do an FPS, joined by my wonderful best friend in the world. Wonderful best friend, Bestie, please introduce yourself. I am rusty at this.
No worries, dude.
Haven't done an FPS in so long. I missed it. Now I can't do it consistently. Fuck.
Pat. But yes, I am the second best person in the entire world, second only to Whirl. I'm RJ.
Hey,
Don't you dare try and refute that fact, motherfucker.
I
But
will
yes.
fight you.
You can fight me. You lose, but you can fight me. Anyway, yes, I'm RJ. I'm playing Asclepius Ash. Uh uh a man, a fearbold, a legend who really has no idea what he's about to get into. He just wanted to do some gardening, yo.
That's a that's a good enough place to start. Why don't you tell us what Mr. Ash is up to? What's going on there?
So, it's come up a few times in a few different games, but Asclepius has a rather sizable garden, that is filled to the brim with all manner of, poisonous and carnivorous and general will fuck you up kind of plants that he hasn't really had a chance to properly take care of given the plot that keeps grabbing various friends of his by the throat. So he's taking some time, some downtime in this garden to like do some weeding, do some trimming, some pruning, general maintenance of things and stuff, feeding of certain plants that they require it, etc., etc.
Gotta answer, otherwise they get pissy.
Yep.
And how's he feeling right now?
Honestly, pretty relaxed. Gardening is a favorite pastime of his. It's a definite surefire way to get him to chill out more than he's usually chilled out.
Nice, nice. Okay. Roll me perception.
Perception, yeah, I can do that. Ooh, starting off with good rolls today. If I can find the rolls line, there it is. Scuppy's is good at perception. That's 24.
Nice. Okay, so you hear a faint jingling sound from behind you. Are you standing or sitting right now?
Honestly, he'd probably be kneeling because I think at this point he's probably tending to some of the larger plants. He'd probably be kneeling to access their roots and the actual like beds that they're in.
Okay, so corner so you hear this like faint jingling sound, right? And then out of the corner of your eye, there's sort of a faint glow that comes near you, and then something fluffy brushes up against your elbow.
Well,
And
hello there.
there's a very soft meow.
He does. He looks down and he does go. Well, hello there.
There
What
is a
is?
there is a very fluffy, dark purple, almost black cat just kind of sitting there like she has every business in the world to be there, staring up at him with these big, big blue eyes, and she has a little white star-shaped spot on her forehead, and she just meow.
Well, aren't you gorgeous? Hello there. And he'll like put down whatever tools he's using at that moment, brush his hands off, and like hold out a hand for the cat to sniff.
And she does. She sniffs his hand and she butts up against it like, yes, this is a good person.
He immediately switches to a little scratch between the ears.
Meow.
You're very pretty. Where have you come from?
And she kind of swishes her tail and looks over her shoulder towards where I presume the woods are.
Hmm. I didn't know we had any new residents. Interesting. Would the cat let him pick her up?
She probably would. She's a very chill cat. Roll animal handling.
Animal handling. Okay. What's your stat for that? I don't. You don't have proficiency, but it's still good. Ooh, nice. That's another 24.
Okay, so he goes to try and pick her up, and she decides, okay, this person is good, and decides to just jump up onto his shoulder.
He does laugh at that, carefully angling his head so that his antlers don't get in the way. Um, like raises a hand to give a little scratch under the chin and carefully stands so as to avoid disrupting her balance.
Okay, so as you're kind of giving her a scratch under the chin, your hand hits something that's kind of dangling from her collar. It's this brightly glowing golden crescent moon thing.
Mm. Does it look like it has like a name or anything on it?
No, but there is a tag behind it.
We'll look at the tag.
It says Hollyhock.
Hollyhock. Is that your name?
And she kind of just purrs approvingly.
Hmm. Fitting.
Well,
By this point, he's like stood up and is now looking over the wall. Because the wall itself that surrounds the garden is maybe 3 feet. And he is over double that. So he can easily just look over the wall and look through the woods trying to find whomever owns this cat. Because they're probably looking for their cat.
yeah, it is kind of at that moment. Like, I make you roll investigation, but he's not trying to hide or anything. Another sort of source of light comes through the woods and is followed by a voice. Holly, where did you run off to? Hollyhock. Oh dear.
Asclepius is gonna quickly cast Thaumaturgy to make his voice carry so he doesn't have to shout. He's gonna go, I found your cat, if you'd like to head this way.
The sort of movement of the light, because you can't really see the person carrying it, but the movement of the light stops, and Hollyhock just looks very proud of herself and just kind of kneads your shoulder as there's sort of a rustle in the sort of plant growth of the woods, and eventually a um, a young man steps out. You have never seen this person before in your life. He's short-ish, but definitely not the shortest person you've ever seen. With long, light blue hair, most of which is tucked under a broad-brimmed hat with a pattern of a crescent moon. And he's wearing relatively light, loose clothing and a dark red scarf. And in his hand, he's carrying what looks like a ball of pure golden light in the same color as the little crescent thingy on Holly's collar.
Mmm. Asclepius will wave.
And this guy will stop and kind of blink and say, "Oh, you did find her. I am so sorry. She likes to get away from me sometimes."
That's quite alright. I'm glad I found her before she investigated too much of this place, though. Some of the plants are a little bit snappy.
Oh, lovely. God, I hate the living world.
He's just gonna walk over toward the wall, like hold out a hand for this dude to shake.
And he's gonna think for a minute and just kind of walk over.
Asclepius Ash, it's nice to meet you.
Endymion, no last name given. Spiritfarer, pleased to meet you.
The Spiritfarer.
Former, I assume.
Just gonna have him roll like a quick history check, see if he knows what the fuck that means. I've got good rolls tonight, apparently, huh?
What'd you get?
It's 19. 17 plus 2.
19, not bad. Okay, so this is actually not a very easy to acquire piece of knowledge because it's mostly held in myths and legends. But supposedly, when you die, if you die with unfinished business that you can't resolve on Earth, you go to the spirit realm. And the Spiritfarer is somebody who helps you in your last hours, takes you on a journey that helps you resolve any lingering issues you might have.
Interesting.
What's weird though, and you get this with a 19, is that the Spiritfarer is supposed to be dead, and this person is very much alive.
Asclepius is curiously tilting his head because yeah, dead person apparently come back to life. Interesting, interesting, very interesting. Especially to a grave cleric.
Holly takes that opportunity to jump from your shoulder to Endymion's, and he kind of relaxes a bit and scratches her under the chin and says, "You need to stop trying to ditch me, okay? Neither of us know what's going on here. You've got to stop this." And she just kind of meows a little bit sassily, like, I don't know. If I remember right, you said that furbolgs have kind of an ability to talk to animals, right?
Yeah, speech of beast and leaf. Animals can understand the meaning of your words, but you don't have any special ability to understand them in return. That
Okay.
said, he does know how to read things very, very well.
Okay, then I'll give you this. Because she is a very expressive cat. She's a toon cat. And her attitude is very much along the lines of, if I had never run away, you would never have gotten out of the house.
Asclepius is concerned, TM.
And she also takes that moment to start batting at Endymion's earring. He's like, "Hey, no, stop that." She does not stop that. And he eventually sighs and says, "I'm sorry. I do hope she didn't give you too much trouble."
Not at all. She was positively a delight.
That's out of character. There's very much the air of just affectionate teasing between this cat and her person.
As tends to be between all cats and their people, honestly.
And Endymion will kind of want to turn to leave, but then Holly will meow very loudly in his ear, and he'll be like, all right, calm down. Mr. Ash, sorry, do you mind telling me where exactly we've ended up?
In a kind of continental setting, or this specific area?
Both, if possible.
Well, currently you're stood in Halloween Town on the continent of Inkwell in the country of Iznep. I can never remember what the name of this planet is called. I don't have to tend to deal with that very much.
Insight.
Absolutely. But it's oh okay. So 21.
21 works. Yeah, the more you say, the more his expression just kind of falls. He looks very confused and a little upset.
I take it this isn't somewhere usually under your purview.
No, not remotely. Um, hmm. uh, sorry, we're what you might call new in the area.
There's been quite a few of those as of late. Would you like to discuss this over some tea?
Uh, and he's going to look to Holly for a second, because she knows you, he doesn't, and he's going to like look at her, and she's just going to nod in a very uncat-ish way. And he just nods back and says, "Sure, tea would be lovely."
Follow me then. And he will guide you to a gate in the wall so you can actually come into the garden. And then from the garden, there is a door in the fucking mansion, the giant mansion that you somehow managed to miss up to this point. Uh, it takes you inside, it takes you to a little kitchen with like an island in the middle with some bar stools set up, and will direct the two of you to a chair while he puts on a pot of tea and gets some little dainty sandwiches, as one might have with afternoon tea.
Yeah, Endymion's just gonna pause and like look around for a second, like, oh god, I haven't seen anything this fancy since my creator's childhood best friend's house.
The outside of the mansion itself has this very like Victorian Gothic kind of wrought iron and dark wood and brick outside, and then you go inside, and this particular section is actually very homely. It's nice. There's some pieces of art on the walls, and everything is painted in nice kind of sunshiny, bright color. Probably kind of a pale lilac, maybe. Um,
Nice.
it's a very well outfitted kitchen as well. You get the feeling either Asclepius or someone else who lives here is fond of cooking.
Hey, that's something he can relate to, and he does kind of relax a bit because, oh, people who like cooking are usually nice. Unless they explicitly got good at cooking to get good at poisoning people, in which case they're not nice, and they probably have to be beaten off with a stick. But
I mean, he has an alchemical setup, but that's in a different area. And it's more for herbal recipes than it is for poisons. Although sometimes to
yeah.
cure a poison you must first make the poison itself. But that's a different matter altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. And Endymon's just gonna kind of go over these things in his head, like, yep, okay, this seems fairly normal. Hopefully this person is a good person. Because he has reason to believe that people in the real world, in the living world, can be not nice, but also you're the first person he's met in the living world because he hasn't left his fucking boat for several days. So
Honestly, that's such a mood. It's
cause optimism.
yeah. Asclepius will finish putting the final couple touches on a quick whip up of an afternoon tea, set out like a plate of small sandwiches and a plate of little tarts, and then bring over a pot of tea and some teacups. And he pours you a cup and pushes forward some sugar and some cream, if you so desire it, and goes, "I hope you don't mind lavender. I harvested some just this morning, actually."
Not at all. Thank you. Um, and he's kind of still looking around the kitchen and says, your home is lovely. Much more impressive than anything I'm used to, but still quite nice."
It's a side effect of being one of the ruling bodies of this place, so to speak.
Oh, am I in the presence of royalty?
Oh no, goodness no. This is elected post.
Oh, okay, good. My I think my adoptive grandmother might bash me over the head if I was actually having lunch with royalty.
Even if you were, I wouldn't stand on ceremony too much. There's not much point. We're all just people at the end of the day.
True enough. Sorry, I'm afraid I'm not good at conversation. Usually people do the talking for me. Um, what's it like in this place?
Halloween Town in itself is a very friendly place. We take in many different kinds of peoples. More often than not, those who would be outcasts from other such places. There's a strong sense of community in our walls.
Sounds lovely.
I suppose, how long have you been in Inkwell?
And he kind of like pauses and counts on his fingers and then blinks, recounts, and says, 3 weeks now. Haven't seen much of it, of course. But 3 weeks?
Inkwell is home to a race of peoples known as Toonkind. They come in all different manner of shapes and sizes and designs, but one thing they all have in common is a remarkable sense of humor. You'll notice that more if you investigate a little further.
Insight?
Sure, yeah. That's a nat 20! Tell me everything.
You mentioned Toonkind, and this person, Endymion, he goes stock still. Just kind of mentally blue screen, something glitched. Please hold for further service still. And he is a Toon. You can recognize that. He is, if you had to guess, a Toon of maybe Ghiblian descent. And he seems shocked by the notion that there are other things like him in Hollyhock. You kind of get the impression he thought he was the only one, and that wherever he may have been, he probably was the only one.
I'm just gonna roll a quick deception here. Okay, that's an 11. Um he's trying to hide the amusement that gives him. Just he's not doing the greatest job. It's about an average attempt there. He is kind of amused by the little blue screen you've got going on, and he goes, Anquel is fairly well known in this on this planet for being pretty much the home country, the central focal point for any and all tunes that pop up. There are some in other countries, of course, but they're not nearly as widespread. If I had to make an estimation, I'd say, 90 to 95% of Anquel's population is tunes.
And here I thought it was something rare.
It might be, for where you come from.
Possibly. It might just be that the way I was made is different, but who knows? He's going to, like, try and cover up the fact that he's embarrassed at having been caught in that blue screen moment by taking a sip of tea.
Asclepius will also take a sip of tea. And then put his cup down and just casually go, you can also become a toon through various different manners. I myself am part toon, but that's not something I like to dwell
on. And Endymion kind of tips his head to the side and says, "Are you all right?"
Oh, I'm perfectly fine. The how of how I became like this is an old story by this point. Roll insight.
Totally. Because Endymion isn't the kind to pry, but also it's his job to read people. I say, despite having not given him proficiency in insight, something rare for my characters. That's an 8!
I'll give you advantage because you're supposed to be good at this.
You're supposed to be good at this, Endymion. This is your fucking job.
I can just feel Wild yelling at me through your screen. 13, okay. Even with that, Asclepius is a terrible, terrible liar. You can tell whatever happened to make him like this, it didn't affect him entirely. He is still mostly real kind. And however it happened, it wasn't pleasant. Probably.
Holly is going to take this moment to kind of jump under the table and then jump up onto Asclepius's lap.
Oh, hello.
And start purring.
Just immediately just hand on her back, scritch between the shoulder blades.
She has decided this is where she's going to sit now because this person has been through something, possibly recently, but we don't know yet.
I will give you as well with that 13. He wasn't lying when he said it was an old story. You can tell this man is old too.
And Endymion's going to nod and say, well, even old stories can have their ups and downs, so I won't pry. But if you had to go through something unpleasant, I'm sorry that happened.
He just kind of shrugs slightly, try not to move too much to avoid disturbing Hollyhock, and just goes, it is what it is.
And Endymion kind of nods at that.
So, forgive me if this is rather abrupt, or perhaps blunt, but unless I'm mistaken, the Spiritfarer doesn't tend to be alive.
No, we don't. And he kind of awkwardly scratches behind his ear, and he picks up the sort of ball of light that he'd been using to guide his way through the woods, which he had then clipped to his belt when he came through the gate. And he picks it up and he kind of rolls it between his hands, and sort of what is very obviously a self-comforting motion, and says, no, usually we're not. I'm an oddity to the position. The person who was supposed to take over after Charon, she didn't have the energy to carry on as Spiritfarer in his stead, so she created me and then moved on herself.
Interesting.
I wasn't aware that my position was known of on this side of the door.
Oh, it's not really. I am uniquely positioned in my history and in my current role to know about such things.
There's a bit of a raised eyebrow moment, but he doesn't question it.
How much would Endymion know about various different religions from different worlds of living?
Well, Probably none from this world of living, or at the very least, very little. He knows a little bit about certain beliefs that were. You know what? Why don't I just roll religion? I think that would make
Sure,
it
yeah.
easier. Because Endymion's relationship with religion is complicated.
Understandable. 11.
11!
Okay. You can tell the thing around his neck, the like kind of pendant thing that he's got, that he pulls out for you to see upon seeing the raised eyebrow, is definitely some kind of holy symbol. You don't know what it's relating to or who it's for, but it's definitely a holy symbol.
And he kind of blinks a couple seconds and says, "Oh, you're a cleric."
Yes. My duties are relating to the grave and proper care of the deceased.
I'm sure they appreciate that.
So I've been told. Strange at first, being able to speak to someone I'd just buried, but I've gotten used to it with time.
Yes, I can imagine that would be odd.
So, and I think this is kind of the crucial question, probably, but what are you doing here?
Oh boy, I'm not even gonna make you roll insight here. He fucking wilts. He just looks just he wasn't exactly, smiling and glowing before, but there's just this look of complete not exactly misery, but just defeat on his face, and he says, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. I don't know. I was there, and then Hades called to me, and now I'm here, and I don't know why.
He didn't give you a reason?
Have you ever tried to get a clear answer out of Hades? I swear to the heavens, that owl is he is a locked box of secrets on so many levels.
He kind of, yeah, no, yeah, fair, kind of nod, head motion, and just goes, I can see why that would be frustrating. Um, you can see there's a clear look of concern on his face.
He kind of laughs and says, "All I can conclude is that I must have done something wrong with my job, but I can't think as to what it might have been. The last passenger was, and he blinks. I don't remember.
Well, that's interesting. I take it that's not normal.
No, I remember everyone. Okay, go through the list. Go through the list. Asphodel, followed by lilies, followed by daisies, then poppies, mushrooms, mallowflower, starflower. And he just goes through a list in his head, and finally he relaxes a bit. Cyprus. Okay, so it was Helena. The last passenger was Helena. Right, and she seemed satisfied when she left. I helped her finish everything. I don't know what I might have done wrong.
Asclepius kind of steeples his hands a bit, um, and pauses for a moment before he speaks next, and he goes, have you considered that you didn't do anything wrong? This might not be a punishment.
Can't imagine what it would be otherwise.
You said you were specifically made for your role. Perhaps this is a forced vacation?
I don't need a vacation. I'm fine. I didn't need a vacation, and it's not exactly like the embodiment of death to give his workers mandatory vacations.
Asclepius is kind of like taking a moment to think things through because he doesn't know a whole lot about Spiritfarers. He knows what they do, roughly, and he knows that they tend to be dead. But in terms of like the actual mechanics of such and the entirety of their duties and their roles, he's not particularly well versed.
Yeah, no, that would be either a religion or a history check, and it would be a really high one to try and remember that kind of stuff, but
I'm proficient in neither of those things, but I shall roll them anyway. Nope, absolutely not. Uh it's a 7 for history. And a 9 for religion.
yeah, no, you've got nothing. Spiritfarers, they don't really venture this side of the door very often. Um, there's sort of the common legends that, typically they use a boat. The hat thing is pretty common. Usually their faces are pretty obscured. And they have something to do with getting the dead to the afterlife, but other than that, you've got nothing.
Yeah. He is very concerned still though. Especially the way that Endymion was questioning that he's fine. He's concerned.
Well, you can insight on that statement if you'd like.
I would love to, absolutely. That's very good. 25.
Yeah, so when Endymion questioningly said, "I'm fine," probably, his that was more questioned because he has been thrown into a situation where he has no idea what's going on. He has no idea what anything is. He doesn't have the means to do anything he's used to. So he's very out of his depth, fish out of water, highly overwhelmed, where he used to be able to understand everything he was doing all the time. So it's more of a question of I was fine. I don't know if I'm fine now. I don't like being here.
He does have a level of sympathy for that. Because he knows that feeling.
Just, I don't like being here. Why did you take the ghost boy out of the ghost realm?
He shifts carefully so as to avoid tossing the cat off his lap and reaches forward to take one of Endymion's hands and goes, I don't think at this point either of us can know why you were sent here, but I am willing to help you in whatever way that I can. Be that try and help you get back, try and help you adjust, even if it's simply to offer tea and a shoulder.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. And he is being genuine there. And he does kind of look up and give Asclepius a bit of a smile. I don't know if I can get back. I've been sitting at the gate for, well, as long as I've been here, and nothing's happened. No No light, no nothing. Even the Everlight's on the fritz.
The ever.
And Holly chooses that moment to jump up on the table and lightly bat at the crescent moon hanging from her collar. And Endymion kind of laughs and raises up the ball of light hanging from his hand and says, this thing. It's supposed to be the thing that helps us do our job. Holly used to have a full one. We think it might have fractured during the transfer. Neither of us were supposed to be here. But it used to be I could pull it into the shape of whatever tool I needed, but now it's kind of on the fritz. And he's going to kind of pick it up and spin it in his hands. And I'm going to basically do an intentional fumble on the fumble chart. So we're going to roll a d20. 20, okay. He kind of rolls it between his hands and flicks it up into the air. It floats for a minute, and he reaches in and pulls out a ring of rather nondescript looking keys that do not feel like they come from this world. And he's like, yeah, no, see? I was looking for something else. I was looking for a piece of crystal that I found the other day, and nope. Keys.
Interesting. That seems almost like a hammer space.
What now?
A hammer space. It's and he pulls it, trying to think of the words to describe this, because he doesn't have one, so he doesn't know what the sensation is like. But he is friends with a bunch of Toons, and he's seen them use their hammer spaces before. So he pauses, kind of gestures vaguely, and then goes, imagine an extra-dimensional space linked to a pocket, or up your sleeves, or just behind you that you can reach into and pull things out of, or store things into. When a Toon reaches in there sometimes, for whatever reason, typically when it's funny, they'll pull out the wrong thing. Might pull out lots of the wrong thing if they're having a particularly bad time with it, but
That would try. He kind of laughs and says, the other day I tried to get my oven mitts and wound up with I don't even know what it was. And he kind of, he puts the keys back in the Everlight and flicks his hand, and this time it does do what he tells it to, and it turns into like the blade off an ice skate and says, I don't know what I was supposed to do with this.
That's an ice skate blade. What?
I don't know. It's been on the fritz since I got here, and I can't even use my tools properly. He kind of sighs and shakes his head and dispels it again. It goes back to just being a ball of light sitting on the table.
Well, that I can probably explain as Einquil has some intrinsic magics to it, just as a place, and Toons are extremely susceptible to these magics, one of which is known as the Rule of Funny, I believe it's called. The hammer space fumbling is typically tied to the Rule of Funny. I suspect in coming here, your Toon makeup has started reacting to it. Which would explain that specifically, and he points at the Everlight.
And Endymion kind of sighs and says, lovely. I am subjected to the humors of the universe. Because that always ends well.
He just kind of offers you a shrug. There's not really a whole lot anyone can do about that.
Yeah, and Endymion kind of realizes he's being a little bit negative and kind of winces and says, "Sorry, it's been a lot to deal with. Thank you for the explanation."
Of course. And yes, the magic of Einquell has definitely got a learning curve. I remember it being very difficult to adapt when I first arrived here.
um, if I may ask, where are you from? Maybe I've heard of it.
Oh, it's continent far from here. Um, it's at this point that RJ is kind of scrambling because I don't know any of the names of the continents. And I don't know if Heart's okay with me saying, yeah, this Caduceus Calais XP came from knockoff Exandria. Uh, so assume that he fills in a name here.
Yeah, and and Endymion kind of shakes his head and says, "No, don't know that one. I'd have to visit someday."
It's a beautiful place. Or it can be, when human machinations don't get in the way. He says this with a kind of very, fuck's sakes, kind of tone of voice. And you get the sneaky suspicion he might have had to deal with human machinations more than once.
Humans do tend to be complicated.
Hmm. No more or less complicated than any other person. But she kind of shrugs a bit. Politics, am I right?
Kidding. And he kind of laughs and says, "I was lucky enough to never have to get involved in them, but to hear Astria and her husband talk, good lord."
It
I'm
can
very lucky that I only ever had to deal with the dead.
it can be a headache.
Also sounds like it can be incredibly painful.
Oh, yes. Some people have this incredible and I would love to say unique, but it seems to be a shared trait among certain kinds of real kind, where they just don't care about how something affects anyone other than themselves, and they'll pass stupid laws, or they'll put forward stupid ideas that would result in a bunch of people getting hurt, or getting disadvantaged, or getting even discriminated against, and they don't seem to give two shits when I point that out. It is uniquely frustrating. There's very little of that here, and it's refreshing.
Well, that at least is good. And he kind of smiles and says, "At the very least, hopefully, the people who do those sorts of things, at the very least, hopefully, they can learn."
Everyone has the capacity for growth. That's the one thing that well, I say the one thing. It's one of several things that I will always hold on to. Everyone can grow. Sometimes you just need to put them in a different bed.
Different conditions.
You get it.
And he kind of smiles a little bit and says, "You remind me of several people."
I hope that's a good thing.
Given that these people were the closest I had to friends, family, you remind me of several of my passengers. Yes, that is a good thing.
But I wanted.
And Endymion kind of lets Hollyhock climb over onto his lap and he pets her behind the ears and says, "Again, I am so sorry for her just running into your garden. I hope she didn't trample anything."
The plants are a little bit more resilient than that. She wasn't the first, and she definitely won't be the last. Yes, this kind of like long suffering look on his face, and you just know that his garden has been I want to say invaded because the connotations of that word are kind of bad, but like, you know, you know.
Surprise visitors. You got a lot of
Yes,
surprise
yeah, that's a good way to
visitors.
put it.
Unexpected guests. And Endymion will kind of laugh and say, unexpected guests a common occurrence then?
Oh, believe you me, between the various different kinds of plant monsters, young lichens with no sense of proprietary or privacy, it gets busy.
Appears I caught you on an off day then.
Oh, absolutely. Things have been wild for the past few days. It's actually been very quiet today, surprisingly. I'm expecting an explosion by moonrise.
Are explosions that common?
Again, you'd be surprised. Halloween Town, one of its main exports is pranks and prank items. And sometimes there can be, shall we say, stumbling blocks in the research and development of such. And then, as if on fucking cue, from outside, there's a whoomph and like a brief flash of bright yellow, and then a distant voice going, "We're okay."
Endymion kind of jumps about a foot in the air and probably nearly knocks over his chair, but blinks and says, okay, you weren't kidding.
Asclepius just takes a sip of his tea, is like, "I'm gonna deal with that later."
Oh, bless your heart, Asclepius. Yeah. This place is very different from home.
Probably. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Hmm. Perhaps not. There's a lot behind that sentence, but we're not going to unpack it right now.
He is making careful notes, careful mental notes, and is also running through a list in his head of what food he's got in his cupboards he can send away with you and what he can whip up and send along with a messenger at some point.
Bless your heart. Endymion's just kind of go quiet for a bit, just like thinking over the fact that okay, I've met a person, I've been in a building, I have experiences on this side of the door. I'm not injured yet. This is a good thing.
He's going to get a good grade in experiences with people, which is something normal to want and to achieve.
Yeah, there's just a very kind of like mental note of I am going to get a good grade in living person interaction, something that is both possible to achieve and normal to want. Um, if you'd like, I can show you where I've been staying.
That would be good.
I don't know. Is that the sort of thing people do? Um,
It
I'm
can
afraid
be.
I'm afraid I won't be able to offer you anything as nice as this. I've been mostly working with fish in terms of meals lately, which is fine. I'm good at fishing. But
Variety is the spice of life and all that. He is now actually looking over at his cupboards like, what can I quickly make to send with us? You need some food other than seafood.
This kid has been eating nothing but grilled fish for a month. Somebody help him.
I think he does like full on stand up, grab a basket, and start grabbing various different like homegrown fruits and veggies, some like canned and jarred stuff that'll keep for a while, uh, a couple loaves of bread and stuff like that.
Did he kind of blink? And he looks like the person who might like initially say, "Oh no, you don't need to do that," but instead he just kind of gives a very surprised, "Oh, are you bringing that with us?"
Well, you need food other than riverfish.
Thank you. That's much appreciated.
While living in and around Halloween Town, you are technically under my jurisdiction, and we take care of our own.
Good to know. I don't think I've been part of a community like that since Charon. I can show you the way if you don't mind.
Sounds good to me. And he will finish grabbing whatever the hell supplies could fit in a surprisingly large basket. He gets a lot more in than you think should be possible with the size of that basket. And then we'll turn.
It's the TARDIS picnic basket.
Yeah. It's a TARDIS picnic basket. And he will turn and finish his tea and wait for you to finish yours.
Yep. And then walking montage.
Do.
Yeah, so Endymion, after y'all finish tea, winds up leading you guys through the forest and to an area that was not here before, as far as you know. It looks something like this. There's just this small, bright red lake that leads off into a river off to the side, in the middle of which is a large bridge that creates a circle with its reflection in the water. And floating just under the bridge is something that looks somewhere between a houseboat and a flower barge with how many fucking flowers are shoved onto it. Good lord.
Asclepius makes an approving note at all the flowers.
And Endymion kind of blinks and then looks back and says, "You don't have an aversion to water, do you?"
Not at all. I'm a fairly good swimmer, actually.
Endymion kind of smiles and says, "Okay, good, because I don't actually have a gangplank." And he's just going to kind of walk through the lake over to the boat.
Fair enough. Asclepius will kind of hike up his pants a little bit because he has hooves.
Mm-hmm.
So he just
which don't lend themselves well to shoes.
Yeah, so his pants only kind of go to maybe just below the knees, which kind of pulls them up a bit and starts wading.
And you guys get to boat. It certainly is a boat. You can roll perception if you like, but
sure. Ooh, that's pretty good. 28.
Nice. Okay, so y'all wind up climbing onto Endymion's boat, and he says, "Sorry, I should have brought the..." And he kind of kicks the little boat that he uses for, voyages between sea and shore on his way up and says, "I should have brought that with me, but I was running after my cat, so I just wound up swimming."
I understand.
And Holly, who's just kind of been floating along on her sliver of the Everlight, just kind of mews indignantly, like, "You should have used the boat, idiot!"
It's gonna be this chuckle at that a little bit.
And Endymion kind of, gives her a mock glare and says, "I am not hearing any complaints from you, Missy. You're the one who ran off." And she kind of just sends a very pointed look between Endymion, the boat, and Asclepius and says, yeah, she doesn't say it, but she gives kind of the cat look of, yeah, I did, and I don't regret it. But the boat itself is actually like fairly well made. It's made of really sturdy wood, and as you climb on board, you do kind of get hit in the face with the smell of flowers. Because Endymion does appear to have a very overgrown flower garden. There are a couple of cypress trees. There's a trellis on which this weird kind of ivy with white star-shaped flowers is growing. That ivy stuff actually seems to be growing over most of the boat. There's mallow flowers, there's poppies, basically all the flowers that he listed off while he was remembering his passengers, they're all there. There's also a small sort of kitchen that you can see. And there's also what you can only presume is the main cabin of the boat, where Endymion presumably stays. And he says, sorry, I don't have much. Make yourself at home. I'll try and put something together.
He will definitely hand you the basket of food. Molly looks around and carefully adjusts some plants so that he can sit down. Making sure to apologize gently for everything that he moves.
Yeah, the plants feel weird when you touch them. I'm just gonna say that outright. They feel weird.
Just for a little bit of intrigue. He, as a grave cleric, he has an ability, called Eyes to the Grave, whereupon he can sense undead for 60 feet. So I think he just activates that really quick. Are there any undead within 60 feet?
Not exactly. Not exactly. Does this allow you to see ghosts?
Ghosts would come under undead, so yes.
Okay. So there's a faint, lingering presence clinging to each of the different types of flowers. It's not exactly a full-on spirit, but it is very much the lingering feelings and memories and energy of whoever these flowers came from.
Are they all, like, positive for the most part?
Yeah, all of them seem to have been left in a positive manner. There are some that feel sort of melancholy and sad, like they didn't want to have to leave. In particular, the white lilies and the poppies feel that way, and the daisies. There are some that feel like they didn't necessarily know they were leaving, like the white calla lilies and the anemone flowers. But for the most part, all of them seem to be positive, satisfied, almost protective feeling.
Asclepius just kind of chuckles softly under his breath, and just gently pats the nearest plant and goes, "You take good care of your passengers, don't you?"
I do my best. And Endymion has come out, and instead of bringing tea with him the way you did, he's brought something else and says, I hope you don't mind. I found a bit of fire glow left in my cabinet, and it's been a while since I had laksa. And he offers you a bowl of soup.
He will take the bowl of soup happily. What does it smell like?
Spicy.
Nice.
It smells very, very spicy.
Is he given a spoon, or is he just supposed to sip?
There is a spoon in the bowl.
He will eat a spoonful.
Roll con.
Oh, it's that kind of spicy. Okay. Ooh, he does all right actually. 19.
Okay, so it kind of does set your mouth on fire a little bit, but like you're not damaged or anything. It's just, oh wow, that's a spicy soup.
That's got a good kick to it.
Fire Glow will do that. And Endymion kind of runs one of his fingers over the edges of one of the anemone flowers and says, Bailey, she taught me that was the one way to judge whether someone was trustworthy. If they can't handle the spice, then they can't handle you.
A sound method, I think.
I think they all would have liked you. And I think that's enough approval for me. So, it was nice to have met you.
And you.
Do you think that's a good place to end it?
Yeah. I think they sit and drink their soup, and probably discuss minor trivial things.
Yeah, Endymion probably like asks for, some help because his entire map for his navigation system has been blacked out. Although there is sort of a moment when you guys come in where there's a flash and part of the map fills in with Halloween Town being recognized on the map. But he kind of would probably kind of awkwardly ask for a map at some point.
Yeah, Asclepius would provide probably a couple different maps, one of Einquell as a whole, and then a few different regional maps. But even, because he's got some maps, because of his background, he's still got some maps of the place that he came from. He might hand one of those over as well.
Nice. Well, that is the FPS. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope you had a good time. Thank you for playing with me, RJ. Thank you for indulging me.
That was a lot of fun. That was very, very nice.
I love your mans. He is friend.
I love your mans too. He's a kid and I love him.
He's a dumbass who doesn't know how to human, but bless his heart, he's trying.
Yeah.
All right, everybody say goodbye to the listeners. Goodbye, listeners.
Goodbye, listeners.